So question 7 is when this gets kind of interesting. And in fact, when you definitely need to be using a calculator. So we're looking for where cosine of 4 theta is equal to 0.8. And if I was on a unit circle, I know cosine is equal to 0.8, well, in two places, right? Here and perhaps over here, that they line up vertically. So I'm going to use my calculator to figure out what this value of theta is. And I'm going to imagine that this is cosine of q is equal to 0.8. And what I'm going to come up with is q is equal to, and I need to make sure I'm in radian mode here. So I am in radian mode, and I'm just going to do this inverse cosine of 0.8, right? Inverse cosine of 0.8. The angle is cosine is 0.8, and this is going to give me 0.6435, okay? Or the other thing I could have down here, I could say q is negative 0.6435. And just like before, we're going to have plus 2 pi n in both cases. Okay, now the problem is, once again, we don't have q. Q is really 4 theta. So what I need to do is divide both of these by 4. So one solution is going to be theta is going to be equal to 0.1, I'll say 0.16, let's say 161 plus pi over 2n, and my other theta is going to be negative 0.161 plus pi over 2n. And now let's look at what this looks like if we start graphing this. I'm going to take another little sheet of paper here because I don't have room. So, okay, so let's look at the graph. So cosine 4 theta, if I'm going to graph, let's say x equals cosine 4 theta, so x versus theta, and what I know about the period here is that it's going to be 2 pi over 4, so my period is just pi over 2. So for question 7, we're going to have a graph that looks kind of like this, and we're looking for, according to what we had earlier, we're looking for where the output is, y is, or in fact our output here is x, so our output is 0.8. And we can see we have all of these places where our output is going to be 0.8. And this value your calculator would give you, right? So eventually we're going to come up with this value is 0.161. And we're looking for all of the other ones. And we know that this right over here, our x value will be negative 0.161. But in order to figure out the other ones, well, the period is pi over 2. So if I wanted to figure out at this point, I'd have to add pi over 2. If I wanted to figure out this point, I'd have to take my left hand, my negative 0.161, and add pi over 2. So I could write all of my solutions like this. I could say theta is 0.161 plus pi over 2n, or theta equals negative 0.161 plus pi over 2n. Or if you're really feeling lazy, why not just say 0 is plus or minus 0.161 plus pi over 2n. And that would be fine. Okay, let's talk about how many solutions, what are the solutions in the domain 0 to 2 pi, and we can see that there are quite a few. So if we're going to list them all, I'm definitely going to use a calculator. So we're not going to use this negative 0.161, except to generate the very first one, right? So when n is 1, right, so I'm going to get this point. So in fact, I'm going to do this one first. So I have 0.161 plus pi over 2, right? So I have 0.161 plus pi divided by 2 gives me 1.73. Okay, so that's one solution, 1.73. And in fact, that is this one right here. And then if I add another pi over 2, that's going to give me this one. So plus pi divided by 2 gives me 3.303, let's say. I also need another one up here, so plus pi divided by 2 gives me 4.873. If I add another pi divided by 2, that gives me 6.44, and 6.28 is 2 pi, so I'm not going to use this. Okay, so there I have 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Let's look at the other one. So I can't use negative 0.161, but I can add pi over 2, which is going to give me 1.409, which is this point right there. I'm going to add another pi over 2, which is going to give me 2.981, which is this point. I'm going to add another pi over 2, which is going to give me 4.551, and if I add another pi over 2, that's going to give me 6.122, which is still less than 6.28, and I think I'm missing something. Nope, that's my last one. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh boy. Oh, I am missing the very first one. I'm missing 0.161. And those are my 8 solutions.